cutting down or isolating?
Yeah, so that's where and there's a division of responsibility between, because this project is owned by Wisconsin Electric, whether it's literally them or our generation control center. Say one of the two entities has the ability to shut down the plants at the substation level and kill power from the plants. That's always part of every power plant. Like I mentioned earlier, every battery we purchase, there has to be some design for actual, in the moment alarms. So if the battery sees a critical temperature, critical voltage, it's killing it. It's literally disconnecting itself. So I'm not able to discharge the grid if I wanted to, or charge from the grid if I wanted to. That connector's been broken. It has to be manually reset and acknowledged before it can go back on. So that's the second layer of defense. That's automatic. That's just the system saying alarm too high, or we're killing this here at the system. Otherwise, there's actual remote disconnects that can be done at the substation level and at the plant level at various points. This is where we get into kind of the electrical design. I can't comment where that switch might be on the site or how it gets accessed, but that's typical of all power plants. There's a way to kill the power. There has to be, both remotes and on site. Although we always prioritize remote, obviously, to keep people out of danger, right? So that's kind of the overall shutdown procedure.
Part of the meaning of this question is when we got this question came about is there going to be a person in charge at the time of this incident that will be able to oversee the first responders?
We call that the best
in the shutdown procedures and all of that, not the mechanical shutdowns and the far away shutdowns of the piece of equipment, an actual person there that will be able to coordinate all of this, I guess, is kind of.
Yeah.
Will there be someone there 24 hours a day available, or will alarm go off, the fire department go, we'll fire department gets there and then there's no one there, so no one to.
So there's a designated, we call it a BESS, battery energy storage system, SME, subject matter expert. Same function as the incident commander you have there, different verbiage. The idea is they are trained, they're typically part of our O&M team. They have to go through a safety training specific to the BESS, understand what do they need to convey to the fire departments. They have an on-call list. It can't be the same person every single day who's expected to answer 24 hours a day. Right? This person doesn't live on the site. He's not just walking around 24/7, but he is expected to take the call. Additionally, the ICC has their number. They have backup numbers for experts to reach to help guide the fire department. We absolutely agree. We don't want the fire department just walking into this blindly. And that's part of the reason we do the multi-phase training with them and why they have that alarm master fire panel far enough away from the BESS where they can see what's going on and work on their training and have numbers to call. But the BESS isn't your answer there. That's the person who gets, there's always someone at some hour of the day assigned to that role.
And that would probably more likely be someone from We Energies that would be close by. Or
it could be We Energies or Energy. We've had that both in the past.
Okay.
It depends on division responsibility. Just resources, what makes most sense.
One of our biggest is you look in the ABCs of number 7 there. One of our biggest areas of concern last meeting is if there is need for an evacuation, none of us could answer who calls residents, who has notified the residents that these batteries are going in and they may be involved in an evacuation plan, or if they're on, like Rob's a half mile away and one of the batteries on that corner, who is in charge of having the plan? Who is in charge of making sure the residents realize they're within that radius of the evacuation area or plan? Who does that?
So we train the first responders. We give them the studies, reports, emergency response plan, and tools, even if they're missing them, to actually make the determination: is this something I need to declare an evacuation for, or is it simple close your windows, or everything's fine, we're not measuring carbon monoxide where we're standing here. We did that training at Paris. That location, there's a site, a residence within 300 feet of the battery container. So we're going to have someone from hazmat standing there able to make that call at the time. But The fire department makes that call, whether an evacuation is needed. We train them on how to do so, what they need to measure. And then after a certain point, you treat this like you would other fires. If your neighbor's house was on fire, what would you do in that protocol?
That part I understand, but it didn't quite answer the question.
Sorry.
Who or what entity is responsible for, before an event happens, letting the residents know that are in the immediate vicinity, that you are in the immediate vicinity of this battery storage area? And if an event may happen,
I
and somebody
misunderstood.
randomly calls you and says,
I,
hey, because we definitely know that there's some folks that don't get out of their house much, or
For
don't
sure.
realize what's going on, and they may get a call from, you know, Wood County or the fire department about an evacuation, and they're not going to have any idea what it's about. And so at some point there needs to be some front loading to those immediate
I
residents.
understand. I misunderstood that.
That's okay.
We've ended up doing something similar in past projects. I don't know when, who's coordinating. This is something I'm gonna take back to Sage and my team. I'll have to definitely just put them in there, because I don't go out. I'm just the engineer. I don't go out say, hey, by the way, I'm your neighbor. If you hear an alarm, here's what you do. But that's, community engagement. We'll take back to our development team here. So
Thank you, I appreciate it.
That was a question we had, and I brought up, you weren't here, but I brought it up. I said, how many people in your circle would know that those batteries are even here right now? And that if a warning went out, how would they react to it if they didn't even know that they existed or were there?
Or was it a scam? Get 'em out of
Their reaction would be totally different if they knew they were there and that there were possible
Same reason
concerns
why
or
you,
whatever.
why,
So-
I get it. You have a plan for your kids that wouldn't know any better. You gotta assume people don't know any better.
Right,
And if
so
they're not
the-
told exactly, that
Front
there's
load
something that you have to be
information.
ready for in the event that, I get it.
Being educated about it is
Yeah.
the first step in being able to be
Preparation.
responsible. So,
understood. I'll
and
talk
who's-
with.
we discussed whose responsibility was that, is it the towns, is it the counties, is it whoever's putting out the warning or whatever, or is it the developer?
Feel like we definitely discussed this with the fire department, see what their take on the situation is, because we're developing the plan with them. But I think once we have that baked into place, we've done community engagements in the past. I don't have a question about whether it can be done. I just need to talk with Sage and see what she's done in the past.
Sure, thank you, I appreciate it.
Anyone else have anything on those? You mentioned training.
Yeah.
Working with the fire department.
Yep.
Have you guys, or We Energies, or anybody been in contact with the local fire departments yet on this
Yes.
project?
Actually, I got an email right here that I was copied on from the fire department to Cedar, so I know they have been in contact.
All the area fire departments or Nakusa?
Probably just Nakusa at this point in time.
Would the training encompass more than just the Nakusa Fire Department?
Yes, because there were community
Right,
response.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
kind of what I was
it would. Yeah, absolutely. But Mike Hargy takes lead because it's in our area.
Right.
I mean, his area. So
And is there, I'm sorry, reading.
I was gonna say,
Is there
including Grand Rapids. So
Okay.
there was 3 fire departments that were.
And is there an ongoing training, like every year you go through an updated training? every
Yeah.
2 years?
Exactly. So there's multi-phase training approach. So quick summary, I usually get involved talking to the fire department a little, later in kind of execution. We know what's going on the ground. I mentioned at 30%, we go over access routes, introduction. Usually that's where conversations start. We meet call it the principal fire department, and then they usually have an inspector, hazmat representative, and then representatives of just support fire departments around there, just to keep it to a tight, kind of 5-person leadership group. That's when we go over kind of the emergency response plans. Before batteries arrive at site, we have what's called phase 1 training. And that is, you have batteries here. Temporarily, alarms are still getting commissioned. You have the batteries here, but they're not connected. They're at a low state of charge, which they can be better, but they're not, the safety systems aren't online. If something happened the first minute the truck rolls on site, what do you do? How do you approach a battery fire? That's what that training is about. And we bring in fire protection engineers to help us there as well. Before the plant goes commercial, we have a phase 2 training. That's everything works. The plant is ideally running the same way the next 20 years. We know where the alarms are going. We kind of discussed the points that we talked about here. That's the last training before the plant goes operational. Every year we do an annual training. So we have 4 quarterly trainings of our techs. One of those trainings will include the fire department, and they can go over drills, what the techs are doing, refresher of the emergency response plan. If there's been an update to the emergency response plan, because it's supposed to be looked at every year, issue what that may be as well. If knowledge has changed, strategies have changed, that's the opportunity to do so. But the commitment is at least annually with the fire department, quarterly of our employees.
And do you pick up the bill for that? Because the fire department will have to have their people in there, the personnel, they have to pay them for that training. They're volunteers from what I understand in the CUSA, but if they have to show up for training, I do believe they would get paid for that, right, Jim?
I think so.
So who would get the bill for that? I mean, the residents would if you didn't, or if someone didn't. I just wondered who would get the bill for that extra training that all the first responders would have to have. Who pays that bill? Is it our township, or is the solar developer or the solar owner?
We've typically handled that in the past, the training. I don't write the checks, so I want to double check for you, right? Give you that answer back in writing, obviously. But that's what we've done in the past. I know we've had to budget that and for sessions for what people might have missed in the past year, make them sessions, but we get the training done. That's our commitment.
What is the odds of a battery catching on fire?
I'm not entirely sure. It's getting a little bit less since 2020 when the actual battery fire codes got into place. People were kind of just doing whatever made sense at the time back then. I know the life safety risk has gone down tremendously since the event in 2019 where 4 firefighters got hurt in Arizona. That's the thing I'm proud of the most is right now it's kind of a headache with insurance. The plant takes an outage, but people aren't getting hurt.
In your lifespan, changing them out?
The lifespan's been typically 20 years. I think in the past, sometimes it's been 10 years, not too long ago. The last 5-ish years I've been working, it's been a 20-year term. That's kind of what we're expecting.
Okay.
So there's a lot of sensors. This battery management system seems to be one of the things that causes the most problems with these, that they go out. So you've got a lot of potential problems. The older they get, the more. It's just like a vehicle. How often does the ECM on a vehicle, the engine control module, go out? On the older they are, the more chance there is that it does go off. And this battery management system controls the charge to that battery, and that's what causes them to overheat most of the time. So when we're talking a 20-year span, are some of these parts going to be updated, changed, renewed?
Yeah. Sensors need to get replaced. They have depends on the sensor and which one you buy. It could be 5 to 10 years. We've had, at Paris, we had a couple, there's 6 sensors, 150 containers, whatever that map ends up being, just smoke alarms, right? We've had a few of those get replaced. It ends up being a small fraction of the overall, but that's why we have spares. And we'd expect, if the sensors are offline, they're going to register a fault in the container. If they're not working or they're shorting out, they're going to show up funny in the system. If there's, sufficient level of failure, it's just going to register us an alarm, and we're going to see there's an alarm in the system, but nothing's happening. What's going on? The smoke detector keeled over. That's happened in the past. It's not unusual. That's why we have to go in, test, periodically replace, and work with your fire inspector, just like we would apartment buildings to catch this ahead of time.
And did you give us a timeline before how often you tested sensors?
So we have an actual integrated plan we have to do with the inspector. Some are going to be quarterly, some are going to be, once a year, once every 5 years, or half a year. I don't have a memorized list of which is which. Some of the more complicated systems are just once every, few years. Others are, if it's, very standard, especially if the code is caught on, it's like in every apartment building, it might be annually.
Does your battery management system have a backup system? on site also, or or do you just rely on that one system and then if something goes out, you replace that part?
Battery management system is local to the module itself, and so there might be 3 modules per rack, 9 racks per container, might be 27 modules in the container, 56 of those on site. So you have a lot of individual battery management systems. It's not like one goes out, they all go out.
Sure.
That module would show up if it critically failed. And some modules, they show up or there's a defect or either something wrong with the cell or BMS, it shows up as a dud. That needs to get replaced.
Sure.
So.
Okay.
Anybody have any other questions? Regarding anything safety related or the solar project in itself? Batteries mainly.
Josh?
Yes.
So when you are going forward with battery storage, but we will have an agreement coming to us as far as battery storage goes, correct? Because we have not signed one for battery storage, only for the project as a whole.
That's I don't know if Henry's able to answer that at this age-old question, but.
Henry, can you answer that?
Yeah, when you say an agreement, what are you referring to, like a road use agreement or?
No, when we had the first solar project, we had a separate agreement for battery storage. However, in our developer's agreement, we never addressed it. And we do address it a little bit in our developer's agreement with this project, but is there going to be something more detailed that will be presented to the town?
Yeah, I'm not sure. That'd be one for Sagel.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because there's nothing about containment or anything like that. So, yeah, I'm sure that there will be something. I have notes that says it's in progress, but I haven't seen anything come across my desk. That's why I'm asking.
We'll check with Sagel.
Okay.
She's the one who tags us for technical service.
Okay, thank you. Do you have a place that we can look at what has been submitted to the PSC?
There's the PSCW website. I'll be completely transparent. I get lost in it sometimes.
I did with the first one, yes, I agree.
Yeah, so.
But I did have an address for that. So I don't know that I still do. Yes, I do. So anybody here that wants to look at what has been submitted, they can let me know and I'll give them the
what address?
necessary information. It's quite a long one, so I'm not going to say it here, but
Sure.
I can get this to each one of you.
And on that site has all the different impact studies?
It does. It has everything, but he's very correct. You would be there hours upon hours upon hours, just trying to find everything because it's all submitted under different entity locations. But I'll send this out tomorrow. I'll have Paula make sure you all get a copy.
And so the groundwater monitoring plan would also be attached there at the PSC? Because it said
Yeah. Well, there is. I'll tell you what's there. Public impact studies, the phase 1 environmental site assessment, Carner Blue Butterfly survey, wetland delineation, geotechnical investigations, cultural resource surveys.
That's the studies, though. The next one down, number 6.
And the groundwater monitoring, what has been submitted will be there, and the battery storage, what has been submitted. Everything that has been submitted will be there.
Okay, so there is a plan already for groundwater monitoring then?
I don't know, but if there is, it would be there.
That's where it would be.
Yes.
Number 7 says it'll contain electrolyte containment to prevent groundwater contamination. That says in progress also.
And that's,
Yeah.
there you'll find it.
That sounds like it's for the types of batteries that are literal tanks of electrolyte.
Sure,
These are more like jelly inside a container. Again, this is the box inside a box answer,
yep.
but I'd expect it to be pretty simple like that.
Now, I'd like to just review something. And Henry, maybe you can help me with this one. Our first solar array, it has specific language that it will be in Saratoga for a minimum of 25 years. Now, when talking to you, I hear that the lifespan is 20 years for this
Batteries.
one.
Yeah. Batteries typically are warranted to 20 years. Not
So-
just, right.
So does that mean you're going to change out the batteries, or that will be the end of the solar project for Saratoga Solar?
I don't think the solar project and the storage project are necessarily co-terminating. The battery project might end sooner just due to the natural life of the battery.
Okay.
The batteries age, right? They're like your cell phone battery. They start at 100%. They're going to get down to like 60% of their initial charge, and then it
Okay.
drops off a cliff, right? So there's a chance of, right? Sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, this one's unique too in that WEC owns this property now, and so it'll definitely be there for at least 25 years, the solar, and my guess is it'll be there longer than that because usually the back end of our deal, we set our leases for 25 to 30 years because that's roughly the warranty life of the equipment.
Yes.
But there's always an option to renew and to repower. And so in this case, I certainly, unless something dramatic changes, I would expect that the utility would be interested in either repowering the site and putting new modules on the same racks, new solar panels, or just letting the thing continue to run. Maybe they update some things in the substation or something like that. But yeah, at least 25 years for sure on the solar.
On the solar, but the battery storage may be less. And at such a time, when they change out the batteries, is that something that we would review again for the new batteries? Because I know technology changes, so then the batteries will change. So that would require, in my world, a new battery.
Right.
Okay. Just so.
Yeah, I would think so. I'm not exactly certain of that because ultimately that would be a matter of I'm more familiar with what obligations we as a developer tend to be bound by.
Sure.
So at that point, it'll be 20 years into utility ownership, and so I would think that it'd be more probably the PSCW would view that similarly to some kind of notable substation upgrades or upgrades to a power plant that a utility might ordinarily undertake in due course of business, but I have less exposure and familiarity with what those are.
Okay. Okay.
I have a question to kind of go with the batteries.
Sure.
So if the solar essentially should go 25 plus years, but the batteries are only going 20, the decommission plan is kind of a whole project all in itself. Do we need a separate decommissioning plan for the batteries? Because if those go out at 20 and we're still going with solar and they're just going to sit, there should be a decommissioning plan for the batteries itself.
I think there is a decommissioning plan for the batteries themselves. I don't have it here because it's not here yet for the Saratoga Solar, but for the Wood County one, I think it's on my desk. If you would like me to go get it, I could.
No, that's okay. I just think we need to make sure that's in our mind.
That's exactly what I
forward.
was. That's why I was bringing this forward.
The fire code requires a decommissioning plan for batteries specifically. It's going to be different than the solar. Whether it's been historically submitted as like here's our plan for a plan, or technical details are going to have to follow when we actually have the batteries. It's going to be different than solar inherently because it's different structures, right? So that's inevitable. The code requires it. It's a question of when.
Okay.
All right, does anybody have anything else? Rob, you got anything?
So we collected our questions last meeting when I was absent. Forwarded them, and within a month turnaround, we got real people here, real people virtually and in person, answering questions, and if we have more questions, we can forward them on again, and we can feel a lot better about some of the specifics of this project, and because I think